Who is the fairest of them all? This is a very familiar question to all of us from our childhood. It's from a story called Snow White. And we heard this story as children, and probably today we've read this children's story to our own children. Walt Disney even made it into a movie. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? This question I want to answer. You remember the story of Snow White. It's a story of an imaginary kingdom far away. And in this kingdom lived a young woman named Snow White. Now she lived with 7, what I would call today, little people. But I'm not going there today. In our story, Snow White has a stepmother. Now this stepmother definitely would not win any awards for Stepmother of the Year. But she was the queen of this kingdom, and she lived in a beautiful castle. And I want to talk about the queen today, because the queen had a problem. The root of her problem was that she didn't know the truth of who she was. Every morning she would get up and she would go to her mirror, and she would stand there and she would say, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?" Now the modern version of that question is, "Mirror, mirror on the shelf, who's more beautiful than myself?" And her mirror would always immediately respond, "You are my queen." And this would confirm for her what she believed to be the truth about herself. But one morning, she gets up and she goes to her mirror and she asks it, "Who is the fairest of them all?" But this morning, it wasn't the queen. It was Snow White. And this made the queen very angry. In fact, it caused her to behave in a manner that was less than kind. What happened? Her image had not changed, but her perception of herself had. And this change was reflected in the mirror. The perception of who the queen believed herself to be was incorrect. It was incorrect when she believed that she was the most beautiful woman in the kingdom. And she was incorrect when she believed she wasn't. In truth, we're all created in the image and likeness of God. No one person is either more or less beautiful than another. Why? Just because we have the same Father. You and I at one time probably had a similar problem with our mirrors until we learned the truth about who we really are. But to understand the queen's problem a little better, we need to understand how mirrors work. Whether a mirror is made of highly polished metal or a glass with a coating of metal on the back, mirrors have fascinated people for millennia. When we look into a mirror, it gives us an instant reflection of what is taking place in our lives at that precise moment. A mirror will never lie to us or mislead us. It will always reflect back to us what we present to it. And it will either reveal the truth about us, which we absolutely love to see, or reflect which is not true, a reflection we don't want to look at. What we see in a mirror is virtual, but as far as our eyes are concerned, it exists as much as anything we see around it. A primary principle of New Thought is that life reflects back to us about ourselves what we hold in consciousness. It doesn't matter if we're aware of these thoughts, feelings, or beliefs. A mirror will always reflect back their essential character. And this is what we see in our mirror. We know this to be true because in Proverbs it says, "For as a man thinketh in his heart, so he is." It's been said that the eyes are mirrors of the soul. But did you know that our eyes reflect our deepest feelings of love or grief? peace or pain, joy or distress. If we don't like our reflection we see in our mirror, we can change it. But the change must come from an inner transformation and not trying to change the reflection directly. We have a perfect spiritual pattern within us, and we need to follow that pattern so it's reflected not only in our life, but then it's reflected in our mirror. To heal our reflection, we need to know the truth about ourselves, and we do this by spending time in communication with the Divine Presence through meditation and prayer, and by hearing the truth spoken in New Thought churches, and hearing the words in literature written by authors of New Thought.